Can the online attendees hear me? Just waiting to see if it's going in. Going to stay made like 20 attendance lists, but they got them. So just keep fine on these papers. And then if ESCOM is going to allow us, I'll start in 2 minutes. For those of you who are joining us online, just make sure that you are on mute, please. Can those online hear me? Perfect. Okay. Eventually, guys. Welcome. Is my inside voice because apparently this is hypersensitive. So welcome to this first seminar for
Okay, I'm trying something. I'm trying something else. Keys. Can those online still hear me now? I'm trying to use the laptop mic instead of the mic in the seminar room. Perfect. Okay. Guys, I'm going to continue. Eventually, we sorted ourselves out, except that those in the venue can't see me. Right. Let's hope for the best now. There we go. Okay. Great. Eventually, we have all the technology working together. So, my name is Shanique Mortimer-Swart. I don't actually recognize any of the faces except that he's Mr. Echo. Right. So, I know him. The rest of you I do not know. My name is Shanique Mortimer-Swart. I am an academic advisor for your faculty, and I am here to help you with any and all scheduling, study field, anything like that, right? So today's seminar is the first of two. Tomorrow we're going to look at answering techniques. So focusing on how do I understand the question, how much time should I use for a true and false question, how should I interpret an application question, how important is my paper really, etc., right? But for today, we're starting with the easy stuff. So we are starting with how to use your class notes and how to use the slide, and then how do I use all of that to then compile my study notes for the exam. It is very important that you guys note that the only place where the text comes from full work is in the dictionary, right? So in the rest of your life, only by working can you become successful. Oopsie. Right, so what do I need to be a successful law student overall? The first thing is that you have to be self-directed. What does this mean? Man, my lecturer didn't give me this and this and this and this. Meanwhile, everything is on your right? So you guys need to be self-directed, meaning you look for your information yourself. Yes, obviously, all of us need help sometimes, right? And that is why I am there. But you need to also ask for help. You can't just sit and wait for life to happen. Take ownership, take responsibility. So when you do poorly, right, that is not something that the lecturers does necessarily, right? They are against circumstances. But if you say, no, I studied the 94, right? That means that you're taking responsibility for those marks, and then we can work from them, right? The moment that you say, I didn't give it 100%, then we can say, okay, we can work with that because that is someone who is realistic with themselves. Next up, you have to be motivated. So the fact that you guys are here in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the dark, means that you are motivated from that. And we just need to keep this up during the exam, right? A very important thing with being motivated is at the start of the exam, we can say we're very motivated. And then we kind of lose that momentum, right, towards that last paper. So importantly, we need to look at scheduling our study time so that we don't lose momentum. Right, then you have to engage with the content. So this is the first thing that we're going to look at in the seminar. Engaging with the content means not only should you attend lecture, right, because that's obvious, but before going to class and after going to class, it is important that you work through the work that the lecturer does in class with you. And we're going to look at some skills that you can maybe take into the next semester. And finally, we need to manage our time. So I'm going to look at a little bit of what they call repetition, right? Time repetition. So you need to train your brain the moment that it loses kind of memory, right? You need to remind it of that word. Because we remember it based on emotion, and our emotions aren't always really involved with study, we need to actually fake that emotional remembrance by managing our time and repeating within time. Right, so let's look at engaging with the content. Before a class, right, this is an example from Criminal Law 211. And so this textbook is, I made a copy from Advocate Quran's textbook, and I actually sat with a highlighter before the time, and importantly, I made those notes in the margin, right? Why are those notes important? Because this is the first time that you engage with the word. Even though you haven't seen a lecture or a slideshow, you have already gone through the word, right? That is like the foundation. If you go to class without this prior knowledge, the chances that the brick wall that the lecturers are trying to build are going to tumble over a little bit are there, right? It's not complete, like, it's not 100% that it will crumble, but rather give yourself the best possible chance of building those walls good and solid. Right, so this is what you do before class. Then during, you have to make notes. So I actually attended a couple of lectures during the semester, and then when I was looking back, when I looked down at all the laptops, right? I see WhatsApp open, I see Google open, I see people reading the news, right? Which means that you are not listening, you're not actively engaging, right? You might think, oh, something's going to stick, but it's not. You need to physically write. So writing is like the glue that our brain uses to cement stuff down, right? In this particular lecture, and this is 4 or 5 weeks ago, Advocate Quran actually gave them how much will each of the questions in the test have, right? So she actually was giving them tips for the test, right? Like 5 weeks ago. But if you didn't make notes in class, you wouldn't know it. Because what your hand does during the lecture is kind of absent-minded. So going back to the notes is then the last step of engaging. And this is where you actually then use the slides. So these slides I've compiled with the notes that I made in the margin of the textbook, as well as the notes that I made while I attended that class. Okay? Two important things that you will notice. The first is that I use blue ink. So those of you who did not know this, blue ink is retained by the mind 27% more effectively than that. So if you are not using blue ink for your summary and for your class notes and writing, you are actually doing yourself an injustice. Okay? I'm not saying that you should change everything. What I'm proposing is to take a subject and kind of employ a new method and see if that works better than what you have, right? And if it does, then you take it from there and you start employing everything else. The second thing that you will notice is that I use color accents. So for me, my first color of choice is pink, and pink is the definitions that I have, right? This can be totally up to you. So if you want to use blue for your definitions, that's perfect. If you want to use green for your definitions, great stuff, right? Because that is going to stand out when you study the language. The second thing is that I have three there, and I've actually highlighted the word perpetrators, and then I have three words there: conduct, circumstance, and culpability. Those three words are in reference to the kind of the three requirements for a perpetrator. But actually, what I should have done is I should have written those three words as well. Case law, a different color, right? So make sure that the case law and the legislation is a different color as well. So my preference is blue. Again, that's totally up to you, right? The other thing that is very important is the notes that you guys provide from other students, right? Your mind is not going to remember them because they are fire. Your mind only remembers your own handwriting. Not a friend's handwriting, only your own handwriting. Okay? So again, that's the method you use to compile your notes before the time. Now, what I've done up until this point is, in a stress-free environment, I have looked at my work 3 times, right? And then I've also listened to the lecturer. So I've actually engaged with the work 4 times before I even start making my notes for the exam, which means that my brain is actually starting to remember on its own. So what I compare it to is when you were little, your mom used to keep you busy by giving you different points and then you would color over them with a pencil. Okay? And the more you color, the better you can see what coin was underneath the paper. Your brain is exactly like that. Every time you write, it's like coloring over that information. And the more you do it, the better you retain information. Right, so this is then after class. Now we're going to look at different study methods. Okay, just a short caveat. If up until this point, you have made no notes for none of your subjects, right? You are putting yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage, okay? Accept it and work with that disadvantage, but don't let it happen to you again. Right.
Ma'am?
Okay, different study methods. Is everybody?
Ma'am, may you please stand
Sorry,
next
guys.
to the mic?
They asked me to stand close to the mic. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody fine up until this point? Happy. Okay, perfect. Next up, we have different study methods. So the ones that I'm going to work with you guys today, these are like the mainstream methods that we use. The first is flashcards. These work really well for people who are more organized. Mind maps work best for people who are a little bit more creative. Mnemonic devices work best for people who have like a propensity. They have a very good ability in languages. The mnemonic devices work for that. And then the method of Loki works best for people who have kind of like spatial awareness and who are really imaginative. Okay, so let's look at each of them. So with flashcards, you use index cards. You can buy them at Finskype. If you are not like really well off, you can use white colored paper, you can use lined paper. It actually doesn't matter as long as it's easy for you to read and to turn around. Then keep your answers short. So this can be a disadvantage, especially in some law subjects like law of interpretation or law of succession, where the answers that they want are quite extensive. But this is also your last point of reference. So if you use these, you have already made those notes on the slideshows or the notes in your if you have like a hardcover book for each of the modules, right? So you can use it if your memory is quite good, and then you kind of put the concept with like the definition and the case law on the back. Keep it very simple, write clearly, and use different colors to categorize. For example, if I want to know what the word perpetrators means, remember we saw on the previous slide or on a previous slide that I then had the green and the pink. So if I then write it, the requirements for liability are what indicates someone to be a perpetrator or not, as well as the word liability, and then I have the definition there, right? This will all be in your own handwriting. And then I've also added there that the doctrine of common purpose might be applicable. So then the doctrine of common purpose will be my next flashcard, because I need to remind myself, okay, what is the doctrine of common purpose? What are the 7 requirements for the doctrine of common purpose, etc. Okay. Again, this is for someone who is already at like a 60% study, like they've studied for 60% of their duration. So they only have like 40% of the time left before their exams, right? This is not the first thing you do, it's the last thing you do. It's when you have to have that repetition. Then mind maps. Mind maps are great for people who are a little bit more creative. You can fit a lot of information into one page. So what I would suggest is use 1 page per study unit, okay, of each of your subjects. Make sure that each of your study unit outcomes are your little clouds around your mind map. So we'll look at that now. And then you can organize the facts and ideas around a central subject. And this is a very visual way. So it's important, if you are someone who feels disorganized quickly, this might not be the method for you. If you're someone who kind of thrives on creativity, this can work better for you. What does it look like? So for instance, if we have participation, that is the study unit, then the study unit outcomes will be participation, perpetrator, accessory after the fact, and accomplice, right? So those will be like the main aspects of each of the study unit outcomes. And then we have the definitions, the case laws under that. So in this instance, I have just the definitions on this side, but you can actually then add like a blue cloud in my case, where I would add the, I know it was state versus Safatsa in this instance, right? And this, I've only been to like 1 criminal class ever in my whole life, right? I'm an instructional designer, not a lawyer, but I can remember all of this because I actually use these methods. Okay. Any questions with regards to either the flashcards or the mind map? Perfect. Okay. Nothing online either. Right. So you will then add all of your information, and then we can move on to mnemonic devices. So mnemonic devices you can use in conjunction with your normal way of summary. So if neither the flashcards nor the mind map feel like an appealing thing for you to do, right? I know many people enjoy studying in table format. Some of you just write out your information in normal summaries. Then you can use the mnemonic devices in conjunction with that, right? So we have acronyms, acrostics, and rhymes, and these are associations that you make with the word. Okay. An acronym is where the letters of the word spell out different concepts. So stairs is for steps to access inevitably raised structures, right? And you can find a word that works for you. If you have, for instance, the word, trying to think, I had one waterfall, but now I can't remember what it stands for. And that's why I never used mnemonic devices at varsity, because I could remember the rhyme, but never what it stood for. Right, but it is an effective way for some people. I'm just confused quite easily. An acrostic poem is where you have the concept that you need to remember. For instance, if you have to remember perpetrator, right, then you can use like persecution, you can use excessively dangerous or whatever, and then you'll remember the word perpetrator. Okay. The thing with mnemonic devices is that they do take a lot of time, and it doesn't always work for everybody. Right. And then the last one is rhymes. So where you have that very well-known rhyme of I before E except after C to remember how to spell words like receive and things like that, or receipt. So those rhymes can also help. Usually a lecturer will give you those rhymes for you to help you remember. Okay, but you can also come up with them if you give yourself enough time. I just never had enough time, but if you are someone who learns with mnemonic devices, this can actually work really, really well. And again, it can be used in conjunction with your other ways of studying. Fine. The last method of mnemonic devices is called the method of Loki. Now, this is kind of complicated, but it can work really, really well. So what you do is you imagine a space that you know really well, like the home where you grew up, or a school, or whatever, like your favorite place. And then you place different concepts and the definitions on different spaces. So for instance, if you had to remember criminal law, you would start with study unit 1 in the entrance of your house. Then if you turn to the left in the kitchen, on the kitchen counter, there would be a bowl, and in the bowl would be the word perpetrator with its definition. Then you would look at the stove. On each of the stove tops would be a different concept and definition. Then you would open the fridge. Inside the fridge, there would be Safatsa versus the state, right? So it takes a long time to build, but you will never forget it. So this is an example of the planets. And you will see there that it starts here with Neptune, which is the furthest one from the sun. And then as the person walks through, it has little definitions as well. So Uranus has 27 moons. Saturn is a planet with many rings. Jupiter is the largest planet, then Mars, Earth, Venus, and Mercury, which is closest to the sun. Okay, so again, this can take a little while to build, but once you have it, you won't ever forget it. Okay, this is for people who have great spatial awareness and who are creative as well. Okay, any questions with regards to this? Perfect. Okay, so why is repetition important? Well, we have a short video that I'm now hoping is going to show and play. Okay, I just want to sort out the echo. That thing is hello? Hello. Who's yelling? Okay, so okay. What I'm going to do is the following. Everybody here has put, written down their student number on the piece of paper, right? So I'll send you the link to this video, okay? So that you can make sure that you have that space. It's a very interesting video about how your memory works and why repetition over time is important. They also have something that they called the 2-3-5-8 rule, which is how you can actually calculate when to study what. Okay. Just an FYI, this is an example of a schedule. I just want to make sure now. Why is this not working? Okay, so this is an example of a schedule that I actually drew up for someone, and I would urge you guys to actually do this as well. The reason why it is important to have a study schedule, even if you don't stick to it, because sometimes it is difficult to stick to it, right? It is to hold yourself accountable and to take some of the pressure off of yourself. Because if you're going to study 2 days or a day before the time, you are going to be stressed out. You are going to crash at some point in the exam. Okay, I can like 80% guarantee it. So if you have a study schedule where you actually spread out the work for yourself, then you actually give yourself a better opportunity, a better chance at doing well. Okay, so for instance, in this case, the student has that's the first thing. They have no subjects from the previous year, right? So it actually makes it a bit easier. It's more spaced out. If you do it's not a train smash, then sometimes you'll just have to do 2 subjects at a time, especially like 3 days before an exam, right? If you want help with this, you're more than welcome to contact me, say for instance, with your exam dates and ask, listen, do you have capacity to help me to set up a study schedule? I'm more than willing if I have time to do it. If I don't have time, then I'll probably reply within I'll reply immediately, but I'll do it like within 3 days, probably. Okay. But if you can, like for instance, in this case with the 22nd, they're writing 371 and 472. So they actually prepare for 371, 472, 371, 472. And then on these 2 days, they actually prepare together, right? You can do those together preparations before the time and then have like only 371 before you write 371. It's entirely up to you. Another thing that I didn't mention in this instance is the importance of sleep, right? Before every exam, at least 5 hours, very important, right? Yeah, so that's like what we have for today. Let me just quickly recap. That I'm not going to change again. Okay, so to recap, make sure that you know which study method works for you. If you have been doing okay up until now, like in klein van jou vatsverder sit nog daai kant, né? Then you know that your study method is not working and you need to try something new. If you want to try something new, start with your strongest subject, not your weakest. Okay, because having a new study method is going to be anxiety inducing. But if you know that this is my strong subject, that anxiety will be mitigated a little bit. Secondly, don't put yourself under too much pressure. Make sure that you spread out your study work enough. Okay? If you study for 4 days for a specific subject, make sure that on day 1, when you have made notes, that you revise those notes on day 2 before you start with day 2 revision or summaries or whatever. Then you do day 1 and day 2, revise them before you start with the day 3 work. Day 3, day 4, you revise 1, 2, and 3. 5. It is helpful to work through all the exam papers, but they can also kind of give you a set way of thinking, and that can be dangerous. So using all the exam papers can be beneficial, but you should use them in a smart way. Okay. Tomorrow, wait, let me just get to the last point. The last thing is that you should use repetition. right? Not just, oh, I'm thinking about the word. Actually physically write. Use that glue to cement the stuff in your mind. Okay. Tomorrow, just very shortly, we're going to look at how do I analyze the question. So how do I know what is expected of me, right? What is the lecturer want in their answer? We are also going to look at how do I manage my time while I write the paper. So when I have only an hour and a half, how should I space that hour and a half? We're going to look at using that IPAC and FIRAC methods that the lecturers don't like, right, in a smart way. So that you still remember everything you need to remember, but they don't pick it up in your answer. Okay. Any questions? I've kind of like run through it because I was nervous because of the power. No questions? Okay. I've actually put up my contact details only simply today. So if you go to the law communication tab, you'll see there's like contact information. I've actually put the academic advisor's information there. So if you want to make an appointment, you're welcome to email me or to use the link to the booking app to do that. But email me, it's fine. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. Is there any questions from those online? Going, gone. Okay. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Yes, same time. So it will be 10 past again because we have load shedding again at 6. Okay. So there's time to quickly go for a coffee before coming.
Bye, ma'am.